The Wrestling Den is on. Welcome to another episode of the Wrestling Den. This is episode a lot to talk about tonight, so hopefully we can get through it all. I want to say, as always, please welcome my co-host, Nick.
Sorry, I'm
You're
doing
good.
8. Go ahead.
You're good. We're live, baby. We're live. We've
I know,
been
I
20.
was counting 8 I was counting 8 episodes, but it's back. Like my camera's.
I thought he was
backwards.
counting on his hand.
Yeah, 9.
I
8,
thought he was
10.
counting on his hand. I'm just letting you know if we can get this right, you might just get closer to winning this title. I don't know. All right.
Good to
So
me.
what a way to open the show. I got this guy with me just like last week when I said, "Hey, here's my co-host Nick," and then he left me hanging for
Wait,
2 seconds.
if you're the Macho Man Ricky Savage, that you said instead of Miss Elizabeth, I missed communication. That doesn't make any sense.
It does because we're opening a show right now. Instead of being through the show, you did some 8 count on your fingers. You got me confused.
You said episode 8, so I was giving them the.
I'm gonna give you the 4 life. All right, that's 2 things right there.
BWO for
Either
life.
way, no NWO. NWO for life. There's no BWO. That's for body odor world wrestling order. I don't deal with that. I'll deal with it.
BOW.
Either way.
What's up?
What do we drinks ready to go for this? Okay, so
Do you want to talk about? I mean, everybody's talking about the follow-up to this CM Punk Bryan Danielson thing, because last week we were talking about how we wouldn't believe it till we see it kind of thing, and I still haven't really seen any definitive confirmation. They just say he will be at these trio of Chicago shows, and that's all I've gotten so far about it. So what do you think?
I think one, that was one of the worst intros I've ever done in my life. 2, I think that the CM Punk Daniel Bryan thing, there's no what's the word I'm looking for? There's no concrete evidence pointing that Bryan Danielson has signed. But I mean, there's a trail. There's a paper trail. You know, obviously he's a free agent now, and he's still going to go. So I think he's going to end up in AEW. As far as, obviously, because All Out is coming up, it's going to be in Chicago. Talk about CM Punk being in these events. I personally feel like CM Punk, I don't think he's going to give it to him in the first event. I think All Out, to me, is like if they're going to make a move with CM Punk, that's the best way to go. Is do it the biggest pay-per-view that you can possibly produce, because that's what like the old Monday Night Wars were about. This is what the new wars are about. Is just basically your pay-per-views are your the cream of the crop, dude. That's where you want to, if you're going to showcase CM Punk, the first time he stepped in a wrestling ring in over 7 years?
Mm-hmm. A long time.
The first time that he's going to step in a wrestling ring, why would you like waste it on the smaller events? Because that's what you're going to want to do, is you want to hype it up. It's like people see, okay, here's the first Chicago event. Why just give it to him right then and there? When if you don't give it to him right then and there, guess what? Then it's like, oh, he didn't show up, but there's still hope. So people aren't going to just flat out be like, all right, he's not signed. What they're going to do is like, oh man, he didn't show up. What happened? And it's like, he better show up at All Out.
So like you're saying though, and this is what I was thinking as well, is like, now it's put up or shut up. You can leak reports a million times and say that it's going to happen or that it's going to be a thing, but come do or die, is he going to show up? And to me, I did kind of get this feeling like maybe it was just hype. Maybe they like you said, they're just doing this pay-per-view. It's going to be in Chicago. Why not get a bunch of eyes and ears to the ground and be like, oh, is Punk going to be there? And that way, so many more people will tune in to the pay-per-view, and you win either way, whether he shows up or not. The dip in ratings would be after the pay-per-view, because they'd be like, oh, well, they said Punk was going to be there and he wasn't. But you'll still tune in to see it. So it's not like it's going to hurt them monetarily for him to not show up.
Just imagine, though, at all Out, like, because isn't All Out at Chicago?
Or All In, or Fade Out, or Burn Away. Or
Fade Out will be the last episode when they get bought out by WWE. It'll be
AEW
Fade Out.
Fade to Black. There it is. Yeah.
Let me see where All Out's going to be.
I just
2021.
Like I'm saying though, I just think.
Yeah, it's Hoffman Estates, Illinois. So I mean, it's outside of Chicago.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I think that's the thing.
Ride with me on this, Rick. Do you think that it could just potentially be a publicity stunt? I don't want to say publicity stunt, but like just them riding the hype train. Like, yeah, we're gonna get people hyped up. Because I think I agree with you. They're gonna get Daniel Bryan, but maybe they're like, oh well, who the other indie darling, CM Punk, and like this whole thing. I think Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson, whatever we want to decide to call him this week, will be there.
We can call him Daniel Bryanson if you want.
I think the CM Punk aspect of it may genuinely just be them trying to get us to believe that he's going to be there. That because seriously, I just keep hearing.
I mean, it's the best way to promote. Well, dude, we're like 99.9% on the dotted line with him.
Right. Yeah, he's got a pen in his hand. He's sitting at the desk. He's ready to go. But just like every other wrestling contract,
he's tapping his cheek with the pen. He might get it.
Dude, the televised contract signing, right? And then fucking Kevin Nash's music hits.
Dude,
and he power bombs through the table.
No, he power bombs Tony Khan, so he can't sign, dude.
Yeah, power bombs him off the stage. Like
they got the CM on the line, dude. They don't get the Punk yet. They got the CM.
CM pun. And then he's off the stage.
Dude, they get Chipmunk Punk to show up. Some guy in a chipmunk costume.
That's genuinely how it feels. I'm just like, so I can't cuss, but can I say stop jerking me half off? Can I say that? Like,
I'll allow it.
Because to me, it's just everything but the proof, you know. And
oh yeah. Speaking of AEW, CM Punk. I think CM Punk and Daniel Bryan are going to be like the hot topics that we're going to be following because this is honestly, as a wrestling fan, I think me and Nick fell out around the same time. I mean, I lived at this man's house, and then we would watch SummerSlam and WrestleMania. Like that is our tradition. Like we watch it every year when I go out there. So when we stopped watching was the first time was when CM Punk left. After that whole reign happened, that was like kind of like the first final strike. And then Daniel Bryan with the WWE Championship and the World Heavyweight Championship, I think that was the final nail in the coffin, is when he got screwed, and that's how they did him. I think that was it for me as a full-time fan. So covering CM Punk, covering Daniel Bryan, these two guys in AEW, honestly, I think I'd watch AEW more, not just because they're there, but I feel like they will pull in, like, as far as guys like Matt Hardy go, and like, you know, they got Jake Hager who did a fake UFC fight. Like, Matt Hardy's great.
To your point, there's no one as polarizing as CM Punk in wrestling. Nobody. The guy who walked away from it all. He's the guy who told the, owner's son-in-law, I don't need to wrestle with you. You need to wrestle with me. He's the guy that went on Colt Cabana's podcast and put the WWE on blast as far as their health and protocols and stuff like that. And he's the guy who's teased us for 8 years. Will I, won't I, yada, yada. With Daniel Bryan, it's far less polarizing because he's just a great wrestler. He's going to come in and wrestle with Kenny. It's going to be 5 stars.
What was it? The Miz told them, go back to the bingo halls and wrestle with your buddies, and there's also an 8. What is it? Daniel Bryan is all elite.
Right. Exactly.
Go back to the bingo halls.
That Miz promo is great, but let Daniel Bryan, again, it's big news, but they're like, well, okay, well, what's the real big fish? What's the real big fish in wrestling? And that's why, we obviously need to lead with that, because to me, CM Punk, it's the biggest story in wrestling right now. Is the will they, won't they show
up? Which is weird because, like I told you before, like I just feel like if CM Punk returned to WWE, there's nothing there for him. There's no establishment for him to fight. Like his story was told perfectly, and then when they decided, the powers that be, that The Rock was going to beat him for the title, and then this dude was going to go out in a Royal Rumble. Who was it? Batista? Was it Batista?
Kane that was like the one who eliminated it. Oh, you're saying or who eliminated Punk?
Yeah, who won the Royal Rumble? But it was the last Royal Rumble. Yeah, that CM Punk. I'm pretty sure it was Batista.
I think it was Batista because he was in the Triple H with Orton. And then Triple H and Daniel Bryan had a match to decide who would be the third.
And then that led to Batista. Was that Blue Tista? Was that Blue Tista when that happened?
Blue Tista was earlier before that? During the Shield, and actually it might have been after.
I don't know because that was
Punk.
Blue
Punk
Tista.
Punk was gone when the Shield feuded with Evolution, for sure.
And
so.
so then that was probably when Blue Tista happened, because when I think he left for a bit and then he came back because he did the thing with Triple H. Him and Triple H did a Hell in a Cell, and that was like years later. So I want to say, yeah, when he left, that was give me what I want. When he beat up Flair or whatever. Yeah, that exactly. So Blue Tista had been like after CM Punk had. Either way, CM Punk, that was it. Once he walked out of that, and then he got fired or served his papers on his wedding. It just you don't see that it's possible. But AEW, now that is a territory that he obviously hasn't been in. People speculated he'd come back when he did the whole thing with Fox. I'm glad that he didn't. I'm glad that he kind of people at first were like, "Oh man, CM Punk's back in WWE in some kind of way. He's gonna wrestle," and then he just didn't do it. Yeah, it was great. It's like, you know what, his own terms.
You just want to get a check.
And if you were paying attention to Twitter this week, apparently somebody tweeted out that Daniel Bryan and CM Punk, no matter the two of them, they're not as big of a deal as Becky Lynch's return. So if you want to talk about returns, forget CM Punk, forget Daniel Bryan. Becky Lynch is where it's at. No, it's not.
No, but I'll say this: Becky Lynch was the hottest thing in wrestling for a little while, and you got to give credit where credit's due on that. But it really depends on how they bring her back. If she comes back into the fold and makes a big waves, then that's one thing. But if she just comes back in and then blends in with the pack, then it's obviously not as big of a deal as this Punk and Bryan thing.
You know what bothers me about that is that I was all on board for Becky to take the titles from Charlotte and take them from Ronda. I was. And I was like the whole man thing, I was behind it. But as soon as she became champion, dude, it was the same thing as Seth Rollins. And I felt as that moment, like at that moment in time, being a casual fan watching SummerSlam and watching WrestleMania only, this is when I was still just watching those pay-per-views. Haven't seen that, and then just kind of followed like the Raw after SummerSlam and following what happened after with her being champion. I felt like an entitled fan because like here's a person that you were cheering for, and then they become champion, and then it was like stale air. Like I wanted her to be done because all of a sudden she gets the titles, and then I didn't like the person she was. I didn't like the persona.
So Rick, let me compare this to, if any video game collectors out here will know this. It's like the hunt and the kill. It's like edging. Okay, it's one of these things where when someone's chasing the title, you go like, "Oh, I really want them to have that thing. I really want them to get that thing. I really want that." No, and same thing with like buying, a video game for your collection. You're like, "Oh, I really want that thing. I really need it," and then you just want it until you have it, and then you don't want it anymore. And so what happens is you can just go on eBay and buy that game at any point. As long as you have the money, you can just buy it and you're good, right? But going out and finding it at a game store, or going out and finding it at a thrift store, or going out and finding it, somewhere else, like a physical copy of it right in front of you, it's the thrill of the hunt. And to watch a wrestler go through and scratch and claw for the title, that's the thrill of the hunt. And sometimes, you're like, oh wow, and when they're celebrating in the ring post match and they're holding up the belt, you're like, yes, that's fantastic. You feel it with them as well. But sometimes you're only as good as your first title defense. Sometimes, and that's why they say in wrestling, it's a whole cliche about you're only truly the champion after your first defense. Winning the title is one thing, but defending it's another. And that's why Paul Heyman puts emphasis on the reigning, defending WWF champion or WWE champion Brock Lesnar. So to me, that's what it is. We're all just like, yeah, this is gonna be great. This is gonna be awesome. And then it happens, and you go like, okay. To me, there needs to be a point.
But does that not make you ungrateful a little bit? Maybe because Seth Rollins.
I don't think it makes us ungrateful. I think it makes us fickle. I think it has a hard time.
It's very
keeping
fickle.
Our attention. And with say like Stone Cold Steve Austin, what do you remember better? Austin reversing the super kick and hitting the stunner on Michaels and winning the belt, which we all remember.
It was sick.
But or do you remember more fondly, or with more intricate detail, his feud with Vince McMahon?
Both.
And to me, for me personally, it's the feud with Vince, and with that, it's like he had matches with Dude Love, matches with Kane,
Yeah, but
Undertaker,
I mean, but that
and it
from my
wasn't about
point
it
though.
wasn't the
From
title
my
win; it was
point,
everything they did after.
but that you can't count that, dude. You can't count that, and that's not fair because you're going back to an exciting time that no matter what, something was happening. It was great,
Oh,
and you wanted to
it's
see it.
not my fault. It's not my fault that that now isn't as exciting as then.
But that's part of the problem. That's the product that we're dealing with. So it's unfair to go back and look at something like CM Punk. Like we do it every week, and we try
Yeah.
not to, but like it's just hard as a wrestling fan when you know there was so much good stuff that happened before. Why can't it happen again? It will. Will it happen on a grand scale that we
Let me use.
watching it?
Oh,
Hold on.
go ahead.
Will it happen on the grand scale of how we watch things now? We've talked about it. They do the same thing for the last 100 years. That's what we talked about in one of the episodes,
Right.
on episode 6. They do the same thing for like the last 100 years, and it works. However, when you watch a movie that has the same kind of formula as a different movie and as a different movie, let's just take horrors for example. You'll watch Friday the 13th. You'll watch Nightmare on Elm Street. You'll watch Halloween, and each one might be a different type of slasher, but they all kind of have the same basis. Some chick is running, she's screaming, she becomes like the heroine protagonist. Like that's the thing about wrestling. When you do something so many times before, is it like how is it going to retain the same level of excitement you get the first time watching it? So we got a shot out of a cannon with Vince McMahon and Stone Cold Steve Austin. That's why I think things like Kevin Owens versus Shane McMahon, like the establishment role, didn't work as well because it's no fault at Kevin Owens for being pretty much Stone Cold Steve Austin of the new era, which I don't see.
Right.
It's what was forced upon him. But that's what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Like we saw the same thing, and just taking that alone, Stone Cold Steve Austin and Vince McMahon, it's been done again, and it wasn't as exciting because we've already seen it.
Yeah, I got you.
But go ahead, no. But that's what I mean. It's hard to take Stone Cold and looking at Vince.
Like you're saying, like the reason the Vince and Austin thing works so well is because wrestling commissioners and owners and Vince himself had been someone we knew, but we didn't know him as
they weren't an enemy yet. They were on-screen villain
and it actually started more so with Brett because Brett was blaming Vince for screwing him previously. You know, even before the screw job itself.
Can I ask you something?
They were kind of pulling Vince into the on-screen persona, but then it was because it was fresh and new. Like you said, they can't just do Shane McMahon and Kevin Owens and expect it to have the same effect because we've seen that before. We've seen it's the same old song and dance. And unfortunately, the Vince and Austin thing, it's timeless. Every time you see them in the ring together, you know Vince is taking the stunner. Like, you know it's going to happen, and we all cheer every time. And I would never get tired of watching Vince McMahon take the stunner, even at his old age.
I don't want to see him do it. He's going to break a quad.
No, like when Brock F5'd him and like murdered him. I thought
dude, he just no matter what he does, dude, he just gets hurt, dude. This poor guy. Let me ask you something. So with WCW and with WWE, I believe Vince was the first on-screen villain because Eric Bischoff was on-screen just like Vince, but with the NWO, with it being just Nash and Hall, they were kind of pushing him around and treating him like once they got Hogan in, I think that's when he switched gears. Did Vince McMahon already switch gears then, or was it Eric Bischoff that was the first on-screen?
Are you saying was Bischoff in the NWO before Vince?
Correct. Like, did he go because he went to the front? Like, he was the face of the company, but he wasn't. He was like more so like the announcer of the company, just like Vince. But then all of a sudden, once the NWO formed, he really kind of put on the jacket and he was celebrating the whole time. Like, when did who came first?
Bischoff joined the NWO on November 18th, 1996. And WrestleMania.
So that was before Vince then. That was before Vince.
Yeah, it was before because WrestleMania 14 was in March of 1998. And right after WrestleMania 14 is when the Mr. McMahon character. Well, I mean, you could say it was Survivor Series and stuff, but I mean, it's obviously Bischoff is the answer. But it's not like Bischoff didn't
get his up and comings like Vince did. Like Vince, like when he gets stuttered.
And here's the thing: we could go down this Austin McMahon trail for a while, but if we want to save any time to talk about tag team lists or anything else, we should save that for its own episode because
I know. I just want to get into I just want to get in a quick word. I just want to say one quick thing about with Bischoff is that he was part of the NWO, which was untouchable. So you gotta keep that in mind. I think why like the way that it worked for him, it didn't work in the same kind of light that Vince McMahon worked because Vince McMahon you thought was untouchable, and then that's when Stone Cold would prove that he is in fact touchable, dude. You can get the man, hit him with a stunner. Bischoff didn't get as much up and comings. Like he had that karate match that he did or whatever, and mostly parading around. You wanted to punch him in the face. So whenever he did get into a spot where somebody may have attacked him, instead of getting like their hands on Hogan, like Sting, like then it was worth it. But it just wasn't to me. It wasn't as great. But
yeah,
just
but again, maybe we would have been more a bit more pleasing had Bischoff taken a few more right hands to the mouth, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, dude, he was definitely a character that deserved it. So to not get it, I think that's the payoff as a fan. Like you get it years later, but like who cares at that point? You know what I mean? When the NWO was already sucked dry the first time, and then they came out with the Wolf Pack. Like once it got stale, and that was it. Like this being a guy wearing an NWO hat right now, it's kind of hard to say, but it's just so cool in the Brandon. But it can make a comeback, dude. It can make a comeback. But when it first got stale, that's when it was kind of like the moment that Bischoff got served. It was like, who cares? Because NWO served themselves.
Well, and then Vince threw him in a dumpster at the end, or threw him in the back of a trash truck.
Oh, jeez. What was that? 2007 Raw. Did you? I know we talked about AW with Daniel Bryan and CM Punk. We kicked off the show that way. I just want to know: did you watch Dynamite last night, the Fight for the Fallen? Mm-hmm. At least the Nick Gage versus. Did you see any highlights for that?
No.
Nick Gage versus Chris Jericho.
I haven't seen anything. If it's the day after, you got to get me on the.
All right, so I'm going to say this without giving away any spoilers because I didn't watch the match myself. All I saw was something on Twitter about it. Nick Gage takes a pizza cutter to Chris Jericho's forehead, dude. And he does it for like a quick, rough, like 4 seconds, and then he gets off of him and he gets into the hard cam. I'm going to say this. The greatest thing happened during that. Right after he does that, it goes to like a replay thing or whatever, or like a side shot of an advert, dude. And the advert is Domino's, and they use a pizza cutter, dude. And I'm just dying at this. I'm just like,
you thinking that was planned or?
Yo, if it wasn't planned, that was probably the greatest like non-planned thing that they did. But honestly, if I had a moment where I had like a moment of clarity where it's like this guy's cutting with a pizza cutter. Yo, we got that Domino's ad. Let's replace the McDonald's one with the Domino's, like the Domino's and the McDonald's one. Just switch them. Right. Great advertisement if it was unplanned. If it's planned, if it wasn't,
he can bash Jericho's head in and he can look like hamburger meat, and they'll be like McDonald's quarter pounder or whatever. You know what I mean? Like
pounding the beef into quarters.
Right, hits him with a meat tenderizer, and then.
I do want to say, man.
Chris too old to be taking pizza cutters to the forehead. I'm just saying.
Let's run through the rest of the tag teams. I want to keep it very short. I don't really want to talk much about it because there's a way better topic than finishing up this list that you would want to get into, and I know you specifically would want to get into. It's what happened on today.
I've never wanted to get into anything ever.
All I know is that me and you have talked about this on the phone. This is the perfect time to talk about it. I want us to run through the rest of this tag team list like a tag team, dude. Let's just get through it.
Well, and here's what we can do. Here's what we can do without. Let's go from 25 to 10, and I will just say it. And why don't you tell me whether you think they should be higher or lower, or they're exactly where they should be on the list? What do you think?
I think that's a great idea. Let's do that.
Okay, so I'll or do you want to do it vice versa? You want to read it and I tell you, or vice versa?
I mean, I feel like as far as your wingman goes, like I think I'm more essential to you telling you my 2 cents on where they stand.
Okay,
because you know me, I don't pull punches on that.
10. I'll go 25 to 10, and then we'll talk about the top 10, or 25 to 11. We'll talk about the top 10 a little more in depth. Then, okay? You ready?
Okay.
All right, so 25 is Los Guerreros. To give you some context here, the last handful from 30 to 26 were Owen Hart and Bulldog, Miz and Morrison, The Bar, Team Hell No, Nikolai Volkov, and the Iron Sheik. So now, 25 being Los Guerreros, I'd put them over all those other tag teams, but you tell me.
I would say so. I mean, I wasn't a big fan of Los Guerreros, but that's a personal thing. I can't really judge off that. At the time when they were doing Los Guerreros, I didn't think much of it. I was like, okay, this tag team is just like, who cares? But you know what? I'm not the entire WWE universe. So even though I didn't like them, I think that they have a good standing here on 25. I think they were a solid tag team. They got to showcase Eddie and Chavo. You know, more so like Eddie's like tutelage to Chavo, and how they were able to work together. So it expanded on Eddie being the lie, the cheating, and the stealing, and then obviously Chavo doing it too. I think it worked for him. I think it was good. I think they solid rating.
And to your point, without Los Guerreros, I don't think Eddie gets over with the fans enough to become the champion later either. So
you got a point there. That's true.
Yeah. And then so 24 is the APA.
I honestly I feel like these guys should be like a little bit lower on the list. I mean, I'm like just pairing over or sorry, looking at the list that we have here and just looking at like from 25 down to 1, I feel like both these tag teams we just talked about should be like a little bit lower.
Lower as in up in the 30s or lower?
No. I mean, sorry. Lower as in like closer to single digits. I wouldn't say exactly single digits, but like
closer to one.
Yeah. Going lower on the list, going down in a good way.
Rank higher on the list.
I ranked them higher on the list. Indubitably, I ranked them higher on the list.
No, an APA is something that's kind of we all remember them very fondly.
I think it's anybody's favorite version of Bradshaw. I mean, don't get me wrong. Right. The whole thing with the cabinet was great for Bradshaw, but Bradshaw to me is like we're talking Terry Bradshaw, dude. We're not talking JBL. Like that guy was the lyric.
Terry Bradshaw.
Yeah. Dude, it was Terry Bradshaw, dude. He played football. He was in Masked Singer, and he was a wrestler, dude.
Right. Speaking of Bradshaw, here you go. The Blackjacks. Now, this Blackjacks here is not the new Blackjacks. This isn't Barry Windham.
This is an 8?
No, Windham and Bradshaw. I think this is the original Blackjacks, is what this means. Because
who's the original Blackjacks?
I think that other team was called the new Blackjacks. Bradshaw.
Who's the original Black? Who's these original Blackjacks?
Let me find it.
Is this Jake the Snake in Botchamania promo? You want to play a game at 21?
Blackjack Mulligan and Blackjack Landa. Forming in the 70s, wrestled into the 80s and stuff like that. So
I apologize to any of you old cats out there, but I think these guys need to be lower on the rankings here because I have no idea who these guys are.
That's recency bias, though, Rick. They could form in 1970 and wrestle till 1991 and be like a really solid tag team.
I haven't watched that WWF yet. I haven't watched it. I haven't watched it.
You could be like, the APA is so much better.
All right. Hold on. So I don't know them. I'm gonna withdraw my opinion on this one. I'm gonna take my 23. Once I watch these guys in action, I'll tell you if they deserve to be 23 or not in a later episode.
We're 3 years from now, we're gonna return to this list.
We're gonna return to this list for Blackjacks.
You know I think the Blackjacks could have been 19.
No, because I gotta return to this list for Soul Patrol, which is 19, and Mr. Fuji and Toru Tanaka. So I have to return for these teams. So Nick, tell me, do they deserve to be where they're at?
I've never really seen much of their stuff either. So.
We're coming back to these guys. All right, they get to hold on to 23.
We will do an entire week's worth of Blackjack.
WWE 50 greatest tag teams part 3. The Hell in a Cell that never ends.
Something we bias. Speaking of recent bias, here's what I'll say. I think that 22 is the Shield. I think that the recency bias kind of plays in that. The Shield's great, but especially when you put together, the sum of parts. Ambrose, Reigns, Rollins.
Can I just ask you, do you think any of these tag teams, any of the new tag teams, do you think they deserve to be where they're at right now?
Oh, like when we come down here and the Soul Patrol is 19?
And you got like the Usos.
Shield. No, not above the Shield. Not above the APA. Again... The
next one bothers me. Like even the next two bother me as a new tag team or just a new faction. Well, not new anymore. They broke up, but 21 D-Generation X and 20 the Undisputed Era. I feel like both of these should be way higher in the rankings.
They're also just trying to sell you the concept that the Undisputed Era is like the new DX or this is like a new stable, like a new evolution that is better than the old one. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's horseshit. And they might, when they say D-Generation X, they don't mean Road Dogg and Billy. They don't mean X-Pac and
They better be
Road
Triple
Dogg.
H and Shawn Michaels.
I hope they don't mean X-Pac and Road Dogg. Okay,
or X-Pac and Kane, which was already on this list.
right? Or Kane, Daniel Bryan. No, my point. I think they probably mean Shawn Michaels and Triple H.
I hope so, and I mean this. I hope so because, well, no, if that's the case, then they need to be like number 2 or number 1.
No, there's no way. There's no way. No. It's traditional tag teams. Taking 2 big names and slamming them together isn't a tag team. That's just an attraction, I think.
Okay, number 1 would actually to me would be the Hardy Boys, though. I'm just gonna give it to them right now.
Undisputed Era and D-Generation X, and they put them so close on this list specifically.
Yeah, but they put them so high up, like on the 20s. Really, like I would put D-Generation X on the top 10 at least. Like I don't care if they put number 9 or.
We get to 10. All right, here's what we'll do. When we get to 10, I want you to tell me if you really think Shawn Michaels. We're talking DX that was for in the merchandise. Okay?
Dude,
not
okay.
Because
listen, DX being I'm talking all renditions.
The new DX was a tag team.
So you got. I'm talking like D-Generation X, like 97, dude. I'm talking D-Generation X 2002 when Triple H and Shawn Michaels came back for 2 seconds, and then Triple H turned on Shawn to give one of the greatest feuds possibly ever seen by those two. I think that was honestly.
And you're telling me that pedigree was better than the Steiner brothers.
No. And then 2006. And then 2006 when they finally returned against the Spirit Squad. And then 2008 when it was, what was it? When they had Lance Cade and Chris Jericho. And then it was like, Shawn Michaels comes out and all of a sudden here comes Triple H, baby.
Hold on. I just saw something we need to give a moment.
All right. We're gonna cut down it. Soul Patrol. Do you have anything to say about Soul Patrol?
No.
Okay. Moving on. Mr. Fuji and Toru Tanaka.
I'm sure
these are big guys.
60s, 70s thing, and I'm sure they were fantastic tag team.
All right, I got 2. They were awesome, so I can't discredit these guys because both Soul Patrol and Mr. Fuji and Tanaka, if I'm not mistaken, just got the awesome list. So from I believe that's Eric. So I'm gonna say Steiner Brothers. The coolest thing I think I seen with the Steiner Brothers is when Sting came in and would try to make him flinch with the bat and then hand off the bat. Oh, it's Ron. Ron's Restream guy.
No.
All right.
They're ranking it if you put it specifically.
You're cutting out.
WWF body of work, but
you're cutting out.
Okay.
Yep. I'm just gonna say this while we're getting him ready to go. You're fine now. Try it again, Nick.
Can you hear me? Okay.
I can hear you. Okay.
Okay. I was just gonna say the Steiner's body work. The majority of it was in WCW. So they're ranking it based on, because you could put the Steiners in any top 10 tag team list of all time, but the reason they're going to be at say 17 on this is because they were only in the WWF for a couple years, and
but if that's the case,
they just missed the boat on being against the Hart Foundation or being against, you know what I'm saying, some of the bigger tag teams from the 80s, and then they also weren't there long to be.
So maybe this is cheating. Then maybe it's just because WCW was bought out by WWE
or Edge and Christian and stuff.
Oh yeah, you're definitely all over the place with your whatever that is. But we're gonna make it work. Because I know what you're saying, and so I just caught on late. Time definitely hurt them. I feel like this is cheating. Then I feel like this is more so because WCW was bought out by WWE that they're number 17. But if that was the case, I'm looking right now, dude, and I don't even see Harlem Heat. I don't see Harlem. And so obviously they're going off of WWE, and if that's the case, if they're just going off of WWE strictly and not even WCW, then I don't think they deserve to be so high on the list. If that's the case, because Harlem Heat's not on here, and I feel like they were like a better tag team than the Steiner Brothers, at least a more entertaining tag team. I wouldn't say better. The Steiner Brothers were really more so about Rick and Scott kind of being like the up and comer, but Rick being like the guy everybody knew. Harlem Heat was kind of the same way with Stevie Ray and Booker T being the uppercomer, but I just thought Harlem Heat was more entertaining. It is a WWE bias list, I have to say. But moving on from the Steiner Brothers,
Right.
a way better tag team.
Then
two big guys coming together that are single stars.
the Steiners.
Rock and Sock Connection, baby.
Now we're coming back right now. Ready?
Yep.
Oh, I'm back now. Back in the saddle.
I can kind of hear you. All right, I can kind of hear you. Definitely very choppy on the video, so. All right, so I'm going to say Rock and Sock Connection without giving away too much because I know Nick wants to at least have a little piece of this action, and I don't blame him. Rock and Sock Connection has two individual guys that came together as a tag team.
The Rock,
how about
the Crappy
duos.
Connection?
You didn't like their tag team? You didn't think that, dude? I thought it was.
No,
it
I'm
was
saying it like I'm
one of
having
those-
a connectivity issue when we get to the Rock and Sock Connection. That's all.
Oh yeah, like we got all the time in the world to talk Mr. Fuji and talk Tanaka, and got some Steiner Brothers action. But when it comes to Rock and Sock,
I'll be right back. I'll be right back. I'm gonna fix this connection thing. You run down the next couple. I'll be back.
Okay, so I'm gonna hold up the referee and I'm gonna grab him by his jersey while he's trying to count 10 on the outside of the ring, and I'm gonna distract the ref here for a second. So Rock and Sock Connection, they actually were one of the defining moments of the Attitude Era taking over in terms of the ratings. The first time that the ratings war had changed hands, it was one of the defining moments was This Is Your Life. It's when Mick Foley came out and did a whole This Is Your Life thing with The Rock, brought out his coach from high school, brought out his 7th grade teacher or whatever, and just brought out it did all this thing. And it was almost, I think it was her half hour almost long, 15 minutes to a half hour long, and it was one of the worst segments that Vince watched, and he hated it, and he was that was the worst thing I ever watched. But the ratings were the highest that they've ever been because of that segment. Everybody tuned into that segment, and it was a huge thing. And as much as Vince hated it, he told the two of them, because of the fact that it got as high in the ratings as it did, he couldn't say anything about it. It was the worst segment to him. So that was the big thing about Rock and Sock. As 16, I think that is a fair choice because they weren't by any means a tag team that demands to be higher on the list. I think it's a perfect spot. The Wild Samoans, number 15. I think they did a lot, especially in the olden days. They were an exciting tag team. They were very explosive, bigger guys with big hair, but they could they were moving quick and they were just steamrollers, dude. I think as far as the Wild Samoans, 15's fair. The Rockers being 14, I think that's fair because the Rockers ended up being, Shawn Michaels super kicking Marty Jannetty and putting him through some glass. Yes.
I was going to say with the Rockers, it's interesting for them to not be close to the top 10 because every other tag team that was in that era, we're going to obviously see the Hart Foundation. We're going to see the British Bulldogs and stuff like that as we move down this list, right? With the Rockers, it's they were always considered a tier below. They were fan favorites, but they don't get talked about in the same vein as the Bulldogs or the Hart Foundation.
Well, where's even the Midnight Express on here?
Midnight Express is that's a WCW or
I don't care if the Steiner Brothers could get in, dude.
Well, the Steiners actually spent because the Steiners spent a specific.
I don't care, dude. I don't care, dude. This list is crap, anyways, dude.
Well, I don't even think Jim Cornette would expect the Midnight Express to be on this list.
Anyway, Rockers, I agree with you. I feel like they should be higher on the list due to the fact of their power.
I actually was going to say I think they're where they should be. Maybe 12, maybe 11.
I would give them over the group that's an 11. I would give that to the Rockers.
Oh, but that's because you're not really understanding like, do you realize the New Day, when they were breaking the tag team record for most days for their tag team title reign, it was Demolition's reign that they were unseen.
Which is weird because that was a team that like basically cut off of like the Road Warriors, but became actually better in its own right. Better in its own
Demolition,
right.
What's weird is Demolition came in and they did a run from like late 80s into the early 90s, and then by the time the Legion of Doom came in, Demolition was like had been disbanded, or was a different version of Demolition because they brought Crush in or whatever.
Yeah, Crush.
And so
Ass smash
we
and
never
Crush.
actually got to see like definitively at length Demolition versus the Legion of Doom.
Ass and Smash. All right, so
Smash,
dude,
smash.
one of my favorite tag teams, yeah, number 13, the Mega Powers, yeah.
Okay, so here's a tag team that was a tag team for what, like 6 months, and they wrestled together 5 times or something. And yeah, again, the sum of parts. You got Hogan and Savage.
I love you like a brother, Savage.
And you can't beat that. Hogan and Savage, and that's great. But to put them over some of these other established
It's not fair.
teams.
It's not fair because
It's not.
it all led to Hogan versus Savage, and each one did these powerful promos against each other where they try to hype it that much better. It all revolved around like Hogan saying that he loved Miss Liz as a sister, and Savage taking it as he said the one inconceivable thing that he ever could say to Miss Liz, that he loved her. Like,
right. No,
you know what I mean?
and so as much as it's like, oh, Hogan and Savage, and as much as the Mega Powers, yeah,
the Mega Powers, yeah, the destruction.
the Valiant Brothers at 12 though. Anytime any of these tag teams after Hogan and Savage have to be a solid enough tag team to be higher on this list than Hulk Hogan and Macho Man Randy Savage. So the Mega Powers is a weird team to put at this point.
These guys look pretty badass, dude. I'm not gonna lie.
The Valiant Brothers.
Yeah, dude. I'm with it. I like the look. I like the look of the Valiant Brothers. I think these guys.
What era is it though? 60s.
Oh, hold on. OWW will tell me. Do they still have this active? Oh my god. Notable feuds: Dick the Bruiser and Bruno Sammartino. January 5, 1974 was when they first won the World Tag Team titles against those two. So they were basically 70s, and then it looks like the career highlights go all the way up to like 78, and then they stop at 79. So
so they were, as far as WWF goes, only a couple years, but were probably made it big elsewhere.
Yeah, they were like pioneers of basically the tag team circuit, because that's when Bruno Sammartino, you got to remember, like this guy just came off, what was it, 9-year streak as champion.
Mm-hmm.
But so we talked Demolition 11. Do you want to talk any more about them, or should we just move on to the British Bulldogs, number 10?
Let's keep going. Let's keep going to the British Bulldogs, and I think we should. Let's Demolition real quick, and we should actually stop at 10.
We should stop at 10, and then that way we can. I love it. Okay, let's do that. So that'll give us 10 minutes to talk about some other stuff that happened, which I would love. So that works out perfectly. We're gonna stop at 10. You want to say anything about Demolition, or you want to just stop now?
No, I just think that they were in their own right, very consistent, very good for what they were, and had feuds with the Hart Foundation, feuds with these tag teams that we know, and so you have to be worth your weight in gold to be able to do that. I think so.
I like that. By the way, if you're just tuning in now, please go follow us on Facebook at The Wrestling Den, and you can go follow us on Twitter at Wrestling Den TM. You can watch us on YouTube. You can watch us on Spotify. You can watch us on Google Podcast, Anchor. Everything is right below, so that way you know where to find us. You can watch us at Sports Unfolded on YouTube. You can at Rhode Island Broadcasting. Just want to get that out there since I didn't get to do it in the beginning. But we appreciate you guys tuning in as always and watching. This one's kind of sporadic, but some really awesome stuff happened on this actual day in wrestling. So July 29th. By the way, a little shout out to a big wrestling fan out there. Loves John Cena. My nephew, he's turning 8 years old today. His name is Bowen. This is for you, Bowen. You can't see me. I told him I'd give him a shout out for his birthday. But on this day in wrestling, some very interesting things happened. One of them being Nitro for the first time for Disney MGM Studios. They were presented live in Orlando, Florida. So, as you know, the very first NWO paid announcement also comes on in this episode.
Right, and it's like Hall and Nash like hanging out around like Florida, right? And they're just like sitting on steps and they're just talking bad about WCW, right?
I think I watched this because I was watching the history of the wars, and I've been watching that. And one of the things I think I saw that they talked about this, like basically, like Rey Mysterio jumps off of a trailer, Kevin Nash catches him, and Lon dots him into the trailer, and then like there's like a lot of confusing things happening in the parking lot to the point where the residents even thought like something was going on, so they called the cops on him. And, like the cop, the authorities showed up.
An actual gang fight going on, right?
Yeah. Because like it was like it was Sting, Randy Savage, Lex Luger, the Horsemen. They were fighting, and then it was Scott Hall and Kevin Nash that showed up, and then they were like wreaking havoc everywhere. Was it? You had Arn Anderson involved. Wait, did it? You had Buff Bagwell was there?
Yeah. The
Scotty Riggs. Rey Mysterio Jr. was like
anyone and everybody, anybody and everybody.
Yeah, and like that was my favorite part. Macho Man Randy Savage jumped on top of the limousine, dude, and it took off, dude, and he was like on the limousine, like hanging on for dear life.
Right.
Yeah. Like that to me was one of the greatest like things. Was like the limousine's driving away and he's hanging on for dear life. Doesn't he get in the limousine? Doesn't he like crawl through the thing and like fall inside?
I think sunroof, probably.
Yeah, I think he does, dude.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. But it was like that was going on. And then was it? Other than that, there was this is the thing that me and you talked about. So that happened on this day. On the very same day in 1994, Eastern Championship Wrestling hosted that tournament where Shane Douglas won, and then he denounced the Eastern Championship
and
title.
He said that the Barry Windhams and the Harley Races and the Ric Flairs could all kiss his ass. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't count in the swear jar because it's a quote.
It's a quote. So I'll let it slide. But I think that was cool because I think when that happened, I think they were thinking that it was an angle. Like it was supposed to set up CW versus
like
NWA,
like a feud between the two. Right? No, it was just Paul like getting one over, and then just riding that hype out.
Who got the title after Shane Douglas denounced it? Wasn't it Chris Candido?
I'm not 100% sure. Could have been.
I think it was Chris Candido that ended up picking up that NWA belt after that happened. But that was one of the biggest things. So I remember me and you were talking about it with Shane Douglas. It was like one of the few things that Shane Douglas has done in his career that's like the most notable things that he's done in his career. And the fact that today is the day that happened, it's kind of just serendipitous to me. That and we get to talk about it after talking about it on the phone for 2 hours. Like me and this guy finally get to have a conversation at the dinner table right here, live about the same thing.
That's what's great about wrestling history is that so many things had happened. And it even does say here, it says Shane Douglas was the champion August 27th, 1994.
We also had
and then vacated it.
Did they do this is also Bobby Heenan with Ric Flair. Him and Hogan, like who was the better champion? This was like the culmination of that. I believe this was like when Ric Flair they were finally going to do the deed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure today was the day that they did the deed. Wow. 40 years ago, Ric Flair defeated Bobo Brazil to win the NWA United States Championship. So that was 40 years ago.
A lot of stuff happened near the end of summer.
A lot of stuff happened with Ric Flair on this day. Was it? The Rock defeated Ric Flair. That was the first time that those two. It's the only singles match that The Rock and Ric Flair had together. They did it in Greensboro, North Carolina.
That's a testament to Ric Flair's longevity too. He had 40 years to do something on this day in wrestling history. What
do we have? Okay, that was TNA. I don't really care about on this day in TNA. What was it? Davey Richards and Eddie Edwards to defeat Brian Myers and Trevor Lee. So this was 2 years ago. So this is like TNA, like anthem. Like who cares? Oh, geez. Team TNA with Bobby Lashley on it. The Wolves, Drew Galloway. It's funny. You see guys that are like back in WWE, like Bobby Lashley's on this list, and then you got like Drew Galloway, who's Drew McIntyre. It's like, what the heck, dude? It's so weird seeing like 2 years ago these guys were like
Lashley and Drew McIntyre both revitalized their careers going somewhere else because we got a chance to miss them because they went away.
I feel like Drew McIntyre. I feel like for anybody that watched him through ICW was probably like that's why he is the way he is now is because of his ICW fandom and how he reinvented himself in ICW, such a small place that basically was like was not really looked at. It was looked at by a lot, but when Triple H and WWE kind of stepped in and did some like Rob Van Dam too, like specifically like these guys came out. And like they appeared on ICW TV and kind of like promoted them because they had at the time what was it Pete Dunne was the Bruiserweight champion or whatever, so like he was doing things in ICW and Rob Van Dam wrestled in ICW for WWE and Triple H was just in the ring. But yeah, like Drew McIntyre was like he became big. I think what he is as a role now through his development going through ICW as a character.
I agree. And then sometimes that's important, like to get out of the 3-man band thing and get into something else.
Speaking of people that we mentioned tonight, somebody's 50th birthday or 55th birthday is also today. We had talked about him. He's part of the 50 greatest tag teams. 55 years old. You got any guesses?
55. Man, I'm so bad at judging wrestlers' ages.
All right, I'll bring it
Chavo
down.
Guerrero.
No, I'll limit it down. He's a Steiner.
Is Scotty?
Scotty. It was Scotty, dude. It's Scott Steiner's birthday today. I hope he did some great math to figure out how old he was. He's 55 years old. And I think about that. I think about like 55. Shawn Michaels 56. And I think about these guys' decorated careers. And it blows my mind.
Steiner didn't even get into a lather in the year 2000. And that's what's so crazy is he's out here doing Frankensteiners and stuff and looking like $1 million. But I don't like the Scott Steiner I know and love is this crazed lunatic that like just does and says whatever he wants. I think
this sums it up. And perhaps a tale of two careers. Scott has both a best match of the year and a worst match of the year award from Wrestling Observer. Best match as part of the War Games match at Wrestle War 91. Worst match against Triple H at the 2003 Royal Rumble.
When his ass came out.
Yeah.
He's falling over himself trying to do the pump handle. Or no, the double underhook. Like,
wow.
Jeez.
Scott, man. Dude. Captain Lou Albano.
For best promo?
Wow, they got a lot of his actual wrestling up in here, though. Like, his actual wrestling. But they don't.
Not even the math promo is my favorite Scott Steiner promo. Mine was the Ric Flair one when he says,
"Oh yeah, Flair, with the crooked yellow teeth."
You're supposed to be the limousine riding, jet flying son of a gun. I'm saying one time you should have took a cab and used the money to fix your crooked yellow teeth.
Just one time.
Oh man! And he says like, I seen a 55-year or 58-year-old man who has more loose skin than a Shar-Pei puppy come out here and say that he's still a man.
Get my bags. That one was my favorite, dude. Or still like Tomko.
You are a redneck. You got a redneck truck. No, Scott's the greatest. So with that, I think we'll close on Scott Steiner quotes.
We could actually close up on the show too. I think. I feel like Scott Steiner is a good way to end that. I will say, so guys, as a treat to you, and more so a treat to us, next week we're going to be extending the show for a half hour. So we're gonna go for a half hour longer next week. So don't close off the show at 8 o'clock next week. When you tune in, we're gonna go live at 7. We're gonna be here for 7 because we want that extra half hour. So we're gonna be here from 7 to 8:30 next week. And you know what? I might stream it actually. That might be a good return to the stream. I might do it on Twitch as well. So I'll probably do a little bit of both. We'll see what happens. If it works out great, then that'd be cool. But I think that's let's see. Anything that I need to know notoriously that's coming up that we should be looking out for besides talking about CM Punk and Daniel Bryan for the rest of the time?
We'll just cross that bridge when we come to it.
We're definitely gonna be covering number 10 through 1 on the tag team list. I think that's a definite. Obviously, we'll cover anything that may happen in the week that we don't know right now because we're not psychic. My psychic powers say that CM Punk is going to sign behind closed doors this week. I don't think it's going to come out in any tabloids. I feel like the man's going to sign. We're not going to know about it, but we'll know about it later that it was this week that he signed. Other than that, close the statements. We appreciate you all. Please, again, go follow us on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube at Rhode Island Broadcasting. If you want to experiment next week, my Twitch is twitch.tv/Rickus of the Ricks. We are live on Rhode Island Broadcast on YouTube. I did say that. We are also live on Sports Unfolded. But seriously, we don't have enough activity going on our page. So if you guys could please go follow us at The Wrestling Den on Facebook. We are asking for a lot of you. I understand. Just know that if you follow us on the Facebook page, you're bound to get the rest of this stuff through there because we will have shared links to Rhode Island Broadcasting. So if you go follow us on the page, we want to have more activity going on the page. I want to be able to do polls for you guys every week. I want to see where you guys, where you stand, who you like, because it's not just about what me and Nick like. It's about, all of us as wrestling fans. We want to hear from you guys. And since we're the ones who are talking every week, we want to hear what you have to say throughout the rest of the week, because who's to say that my opinion really matters? I mean, you should, because I'm the champion, but that's just here nor there, brother. Just know I am Macho Man Ricky Savage. This is my co-host, as always, Nick. Go follow us on Twitter at WrestlingDenTM, yeah. And we'll see you next week. Macho Man Ricky Savage, yeah. Miss List, say goodbye.